everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm here to read to you guys from Magium. It is a text-based choose your own adventure story app thing that is a really cool story, and it's free on both Android and iOS, and I have a lot of respect for the author, so if you guys decide that you want to hear it for yourself or play it for yourself, I highly recommend it. Currently, I am doing a smart good berry run through, and I believe we are starting off, or I think we're starting chapter 11, but we're in chapter 11 right now. So, yeah, I'll get to it. And I've said this many times now, but thank you so much to Infrapink Lizard, who has introduced me to a better emulator than BlueStacks that doesn't crash every 5 seconds. So, thank you again. Oops, forgot to get this set up. And any of my viewers, you should know that I have turned off all sound alerts and blurps, so I would not recommend using those. Hi, Marshmang. You're the Stillwater who obliterated the entire city of Ulmnar with one flick of his fingers? I asked Eden. I am indeed, Eden answers. But didn't that happen like 20 years ago? I say. Just how old are you exactly? Eden pauses a bit to think. To be honest, I sort of lost track a few hundred years ago, he says. The calendars have changed at least 5 times since I was born, so I have absolutely no idea what year we'd be in according to the old calendar. The closest approximation I can give you is that I'm somewhere in my early 600s. You're more than 600 years old? I ask him. Yes, that's what I just said, Eden says. Try to pay attention. How could you? How could you? Flower asks Eden while a tear flows from her eye. How could you kill all of those people? What did the people of Ulmnar ever do to you? To me, Eden says, nothing. But the people of Ulmnar were the first ones who started hunting animals as a sport. They are the sole reason for the whole war that has started between the animals and the humans. They needed to be punished. Punished? Flower asks as her eyes turn red with rage once more. They all needed to be punished? Even the elderly? Even the kids? Who gave you the right? If anyone's, it should have been Alea's decision to make, not yours. Oh, right, the old fox, Eden says. I'd almost forgotten why I came here in the first place. He turns to me. Barry, Eden says, did you know that the golden fox cast a tracking spell on all of you before you left the Lasathi ruins? A tracking spell? I ask. Why would she do that? I do not know, Eden says, but I'm suspecting that she must have taken an interest in you as well. He then starts to move his index finger through the air as if he were pushing some invisible buttons in the air. He then started moving his index fingers through the air as if he were pushing some invisible buttons in front of him. After a while, a golden light starts shining brightly all around us, and the hologram of the fox's head appears in front of us soon afterwards. Eden? Alea asks. Eden, is that you? Hello, old friend, Eden says. Did you miss me? Eden, what are you doing? The fox says. Stop this at once. The Stillwater pays her no mind, and he continues to fiddle around with her spell until he grabs onto what seems to be a golden string made of solid light. "Eden!" Alea shouts. "Eden, don't you dare!" Eden smiles and waves at the fox as he pulls on the golden string, and both the lights surrounding us and the fox's head quickly disappear with a loud clinking noise. "Was that it?" Eden says. "Did you deactivate the spell?" "Yes, but the spell is set to reactivate itself and if its target remains in the same area for too long," Eden says. "I believe I overheard that you were heading towards the city of Thilius, were you not? Allow me to give you a ride to your destination, free of charge." He snaps his fingers, and I suddenly feel my whole body compressing itself into a single point as all of my senses fade for one brief moment. And when I wake up, I find myself standing in front of a huge stone wall that seems to be spread as far as the eye can see. I turn to Rose, who seems to have recovered from her violent coughing, and who is now measuring the walls with her eyes. "Rose, is this?" I start to ask, but Rose answers me before I finish my question. "Good night, Shadow Revenant Knight. Sleep well, sweet dreams. Thank you for hanging out." "Yes," she says. "This is the city of Thilius. He wasn't lying. He really teleported us to our destination." "Rose!" Darren shouts as he rushes towards us. Apparently the paralysis effect has worn off because Kate and Hadrick have also gotten up and are now slowly approaching us as well. "Rose, are you all right?" Darren says. "Do you need healing?" "No, I'm fine," Rose says. "I only got a big scare out of it. Nothing serious." "Araka," I say, as I now look towards Flower's amulet. "Do you sense Eden anywhere around us? Is he hiding invisibly again?" "No, he didn't teleport here with the rest of us," Araka says. "Could you let us know if you ever sense Eden hiding invisibly around us again?" I say. "Yeah, sure, no problem," Araka says. "Really?" I ask, surprised. "Just like that?" "Just like that," Araka says. "As long as I get to piss Eden off, it's time well spent for me." "So I'm guessing you and Eden have a history then?" I ask. "Oh yeah, he and I go way back," Araka says. "Is that so?" I say. Flower, Kate says as she comes closer. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Flower says curtly as she wipes the tears from her eyes with the back of her hand. "Do you need to talk, or—" Kate starts to say, but Flower interrupts her. "I'm fine!" Flower shouts. "Oh yes, you definitely look fine to me. Maybe we should take a small break before we enter the city. She says she's fine, so let's leave her alone for now." Okay, so if there's anyone who is awake and would like to offer a suggestion, I think that Goodberry would pick one of these two. If no one offers a suggestion in like a minute, I'm probably gonna pick this one. Okay. Maybe we should take a small break before we enter the city. We could do that, Rose says. "I'm already days ahead of my schedule. A few more hours won't make much of a difference. You hear that, Flower?" I say. "We can just—" I suddenly notice that the girl has moved away while I wasn't looking and that she's currently heading towards the city gates. "Hey, Flower, wait up," I say as I catch up to her. Leave me alone," Flower says. "Hey, now, is that any way to talk to—" "You there!" We hear a city guard shout as he rushes towards us. "What is your business here? Identify yourselves." "It's okay, Ralph," Rose says, smiling. "They're with me." As the guard approaches, I see a warning message in front of my eyes telling me not to hurt him because he's a local. I then get the same message for one of the guard's colleagues who remain near the gates. Rose, thank the gods you're back, Ralph says. Rose, thank the gods you're back, Ralph says. The whole oil drip situation has only gotten worse while you were gone. The entire Sparrows district has now been quarantined. The guard then looks at each of us in turn. I'm guessing you folks are the ones I should thank you. I'm guessing you folks are the ones I should thank for bringing Rose back home safely, he says. You all have my deepest gratitude. Our town would not be the same without her. Is there anything I should know before heading over to the Sparrows district, Ralph? Nurse says. Yeah, Ralph says. Nurse Martha said she needs to talk to you as soon as you came back. You should drop by her tent before doing anything else. All right, Rose says. I'll be sure to go there as soon as I lead my new friends to my house then. Thanks for letting me know. And no worries, Marshming. I mean, both of those were good choices. After finishing his conversation with us, Ralph waved to his colleague, and the latter then opened the city gates to let us through. As we entered the city, I was surprised to see that instead of luxurious manors and villas, we were greeted by broken down wooden houses and a stench that could even drive off a skunk. Most people on the streets were dressed in rags, and they were all looking at us with an uneasy look in their eyes as we passed by them. Naturally, every single one of them had a warning message floating above their head, telling me that I couldn't harm them. Forgive me for maybe coming off as ignorant, Rose, Darren says, after we walk down the city streets for a while. But aren't the towns of Varathia supposed to represent the peak of human civilization? They do, Rose says, but this is the Beggars District. We entered through the eastern gate, but the nobles and the royalty mostly only use the western gate when they come into the city, and they rarely, if ever, set foot in this area. Your towns are divided according to the amount of wealth each individual possesses? Darren asks, shocked. Yes, Rose says. Isn't it the same on the other continents? No, of course not, Darren says. That would only further increase the disparity between the rich and the poor, and cause unnecessary conflict between them. Oh, well, in Varathia, most of the poor people are too afraid to seek conflict with the nobles, because in doing that, they'd only be endangering their entire families. Their families aren't their laws against this sort of thing. Your nobles are starting to sound less like nobles and more like a gang of thugs. Alright, if anyone wants to weigh in, I like both of these. But I'd probably go for this one. But if anyone wants to weigh in, now is your chance. Their families? Aren't there laws against this sort of thing? There are, Rose says, but the nobles aren't subjected to them. That sounds terrible, Darren says. I cannot even begin to imagine the amount of discrimination that these people are faced with every day of their lives because of these unfair laws. How can this be allowed to happen? Well, Rose says, technically, it's the nobles and the royalty who are allowing it to happen, so obviously they don't really have a problem with the way things are right now. You guys really live in a completely different world from us, don't you? All of a sudden, Flower, who hasn't really spoken a word since we entered the city, gasps loudly and puts both her hands over her mouth. Oh gods! she says. I completely forgot. I need to buy a new chain for Araka's amulet. Can you guys wait for me? I'm pretty sure that there was a shop that had what I wanted somewhere near the city gates. Well, hurry up then, Hadrick says. I wouldn't want to spend more time here than is absolutely necessary. This place gives me the creeps. As Flower hurries off to the shop, Hadrick starts to look around for something to do while he waits. Hey, Darren, Hadrick says. There's an armor shop right over there by the corner. Want to come see what they've got? This might be the perfect opportunity for you to finally get rid of that ugly breastplate of yours. I'll pass, Darren says with an acid tone in his voice. Suit yourself, Hadrick says with a grin, and he goes to enter the armor shop. You two really don't get along, do you? Kate says. Kate asks Darren. I don't know what you're talking about, Darren says. Hadrick and I get along just fine. Right, Kate says. As we all stand there and wait, we suddenly hear a girl's scream coming from our right. When we turn around, we see that a large man in his 50s is currently brutally beating a 15-year-old girl in the middle of the street. Judging by his extravagant clothing and the jewelry around his neck, he would seem to be one of the local nobles, or maybe even royalty. This girl is dressed in rags, but not the sort of rags that would be worn by the people we've seen so far in the Beggars District. These clothes of her look much more worn down, and it doesn't appear like there's been any effort into making them look aesthetically pleasing, even when they were new. Leaving her clothes aside, what is really strange here is that the girl doesn't seem to be offering any sort of resistance while she is getting beaten. She does not raise her hands to defend herself, she does not try to run, and she's not calling for help. What's more, the people in the street are simply passing them by and ignoring them as if nothing was happening. Yeah. What the hell is wrong with everyone? Darren says. They're all acting like this is perfectly normal. I can't just stand here and watch things go on like this. I'm going to teach that fat bastard a lesson he'll never forget. Darren, wait, Rose says as she grabs him by the arm. You can't. That man is related to one of the kings of Varathia. And that girl is his slave. She's his rightful property. She's his... what? Darren says as his look darkens. Rose hesitates for a second when she sees the look in his eye. That girl is a slave, Rose continues. She doesn't have any rights or freedoms. That man is legally entitled to use her in any way he wishes and to dispose of her whenever he sees fit. Darren just stands there and looks at Rose for a few seconds as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're saying this is normal? Darren asks her, furious. Treating another person like this? Like they were nothing more than an object? Do you find this normal, Rose? Rose opens her mouth to speak, but no words come out for a few seconds. Regardless of whether I'm finding any of this normal or not, Rose says in a shaky voice, the fact remains that the tournament rules still prohibit you from attacking any of the locals. You saw what happened to the mage who tried to attack me in the forest. You'll just get teleported out of here before you even get the chance to do anything. Darren clenches his fist, and his hand starts shaking with rage, but he is unable to come up with a proper retort. Instead, he decides to turn his head away from her and to continue watching the gruesome scene that was unraveling before our eyes. I'm sorry, the girl says as the man beats her mercilessly. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't ask for your apologies, you little wench, the man says as he looks at her now swollen face with disgust. I asked for you to be useful. How am I supposed to expect anything from you when you can't even carry a few bags? Now that he mentions it, I realize that there are at least 10 bags full of clothes and groceries lying on the ground next to the girl. They must weigh a ton. Sir, please, the girl begs on her knees. I barely got to sleep at all while I was at the slave market, and I haven't rested for 1 minute since you bought me this morning. If only you'd give me a few hours to regain my strength. The noble grabs the girl by her hair and lifts her head in order to look her straight in the eye. So you're saying it's my fault that you're so useless? He says. Is that it? No, sir, the girl says, terrified. I would never. Maybe I should just gut you right here and now and find me a proper slave, the man says. One that can carry a few bags. One that doesn't talk back. After all, I only paid 10 silvers for you. That's practically pocket change for me. No, please, the girl says, now starting to cry. I promise I won't talk back anymore. I promise I'll be good. Just give me another chance. Do you see now, Darren? We hear Eden's voice coming from behind us. You! Darren says, unable to contain his fury as he sees Eden's face. Do you see the true face of humanity you are so desperately trying to protect? Eden says, take a look around you. Any of these people passing by could easily overpower that clown and save the girl, but they won't do it. Some of them would tell you that they're just obeying the law. Others would have you believe that they're only doing it to protect their families. But we all know what the real reason is. They're ignoring her because it's convenient, because it's easier to lie to themselves and carry on with their lives than to face reality and try to give some meaning to their miserable existence. Upon hearing Eden's words, Rose lowers her head and she starts staring at the ground in silence. But you're not like them, are you, Darren? Eden continues. I'm sure... But you're not like them, are you, Darren? Eden continues. I'm sure you would have jumped to save that poor girl in an instant, were it not for the tournament's spell protecting the noble. Shut up, Darren says. It's quite a pity, isn't it, Eden says, the fact that you're forced to stand here and do nothing because of one meager spell. Eden smiles. What if I were to tell you, Darren, that I had a way to circumvent that spell? He says. I'd say that you were out of your mind, Darren says. Eden laughs. You don't have to take my word for it, he says. Once I give you the power, you'll know that it's true. All you need to do is ask. Ask me for the power, Darren, and I will give it to you without asking for anything in return. You must have gone completely insane if you're actually thinking I'd ever consider asking you for a favor, Darren says. Oh? Eden says. Then I suppose that you're content in leaving that girl to her fate while you walk away like all the others? Darren clenches his fist and bites his lip, but he doesn't say anything. I'd say that a good berry would definitely ask Eden to give me the power instead. Smartberry might not. So if you would like to weigh in, I'm going to assume that everyone's going to say, save the girl. If Darren doesn't accept the power, then I will. I say, I was expecting you to say something like that, Eden says with a smile. Very well, then. The Stillwater then raises his hands, and a powerful wind starts spinning around him for a few seconds. As the wind stops, Eden lowers his hands and he looks towards me. It is done, he says. Weird, I say. I don't feel any different. Look at the nobleman and try to imagine yourself hitting him. Eden says, you will see that the tournament spell no longer poses any resistance. As I do what he says, I realize that he is right. When I imagined myself hitting the noble before, I definitely felt some sort of force that was trying to stop my very train of thoughts from forming, but none of that happened anymore. I waste no time, and I run towards the noble, while I ready up my right fist. As soon as I reach him, I punch him hard in the face, which makes him fall on his back. What is the meaning of this? The noble shouts furiously from the ground. How dare you? Do you know who I am? Sure, I tell him. You're just another rich jackass who let all of his wealth and social status go to his head. Welcome to the real world, buddy. Do you think you can afford to act cocky just because you somehow managed to break through the tournament's protection spell? The noble says. You have no idea what you're dealing with here, boy. But being eliminated from the mage tournament will be the least of your worries when I'm done with you. Kill the noble and be done with it, tell him to get out of here and to leave the slave with us. I'm gonna say Goodberry would try and take the least amount of life as possible, even though he really deserves it. Yeah, I'm gonna do this one. Listen closely because I'm only going to say this once. I say, you're going to get the hell out of here. You're gonna get the hell out of my sight, and you're going to leave the girl with us. Do you understand? The slave girl? The noble says. You've just forfeited your life and that of your friends for the sake of a worthless slave? I'm going to give her to you if you think that's what you want. Outsider, but I hope you're not stupid enough to think that I'm going to hand her over in one piece. The noble takes his knife out of his pocket and he tries to stab the girl with it, but before he gets to reach her, I grab his arm with both hands and I twist it until he drops his weapon on the ground, while screaming in pain. You're going to pay for this, outsider, the noble says as he jumps back from me. You all will, including you, herbalist girl. Rose is looking a bit scared as the noble points his finger towards her. That's right, he says. I remember who you are. I know where you live. Say goodbye to the peaceful life you've been leading until now. It is only going to be hell for you after I... Before he gets to finish his threat, the noble gets engulfed in flames, and within a matter of seconds he turns into ashes, while the fire dies out almost as quickly as it appeared. The townsfolk who were walking down the street until now are all stopping to look at the pile of ashes gathering on the ground, with a terrified look in their eyes. See, Barry, this is how you get the job done right, Eden says. You wouldn't want to cause your lovely host here any more trouble than you already have, would you? I suppose not, I say. Eden smiles. Now then, Eden says, if you don't mind me asking, what is your plan for saving the other thousands of slaves in this city? I beg your pardon, I say. Surely you must have realized that this isn't the only slave in Varathia, Eden says. There are thousands more just like this girl who are living through hell as we speak, and who can't even be sure they'll make it through the day alive. Are you going to save them too, Barry? Eden smiles widely. Unless, of course, you only plan on saving the ones that cross your path so you can pat yourself on the back and pretend that you made a difference. Yes, I'm going to save them all. Do I look like a mage to you? Why don't you save them all if you care so much? Should I just ignore everyone who needs help because I can't save the world? I want to go with this one. Smart Barry knows that it's going to be difficult to do this. Good Barry still wants to save them all. I'm going to go with this one. I'm glad you agree. Should I just ignore everyone? Should I just ignore everyone who needs help because I can't save the whole world? Eden pauses a bit to ponder my question. Well, if you put it like that, then I suppose you shouldn't, Eden says. Very well, then. I believe that my job here is done, so I will take my leave. Eden raises himself in the air and he prepares to teleport out of the city. Oh, there's one last thing I should tell you before I go, the Stillwater says as he turns to Darren and Kate. The spell I cast just now on Barry was an area of effect spell and not a targeted one. This means that it affected the whole area around me and not just him. So the two of you have been given the same gift as your friend. The effect of my spell lasts indefinitely, so this power is yours to use as you please from this day forward. With this said and done, I bid you farewell. Eden then snaps his fingers and he immediately disappears without a trace. Sir, the slave girl says as she pulls on my sleeve softly. Excuse me, sir. As I turn towards her, the girl takes a bow and then she introduces herself. My name is Alla, she says, but most of my masters simply called me slave girl. I know I may not look like much, but if you will have me, I vow to serve you to the best of my ability until the day I die. Just give me my first order and our contract will be complete. Sure thing. Actually, I've got 5 minutes to end this stream, so I'm going to call it here. Transfer achievements to cloud. Transfer checkpoint to cloud. Save slot 1, save slot 2, save slot 3, save slot 4, save slot 5, slot 6. Back to cloud menu. Once again, load game. Cool. Quit game. End. Alright, well, this has been a lot of fun. Sorry to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. Alright, I will end the recording now. To be continued.